Well, we're here, kids. Never thought I'd say it, but welcome to another championship edition of Birds of a Feather. Your girl AJ, the Suburban Princess, here to celebrate, yes, a second week in the postseason, which is everything I wanted. I've never worked a postseason this long. I never got past the first round with my Birds, so now thank you, Lord. They won 15-10 last week against the Falcons, and now they're going in hard against the Minnesota Vikings in literally less than 12 hours. So this is going to be a very exciting prep day mentally for all of us fans, for all the analysts, for even the players themselves, because this journey has been the most fulfilling out of all Eagle seasons I've experienced since I started becoming a fan. And yes, we have been in the Super Bowl before, but for some reason, obviously, we could not get the job done. With this team, not only do this team have youth on their side, they have a lot of veterans who've been to the Super Bowl and won, and then they also have a backup quarterback that can redeem himself by getting through this game to even get himself to Minnesota on the shoulders of our QB, Carson Wentz. And to know that Carson will be hobbling along, but supporting as he's always been, is very reassuring that the postseason and the offseason in 2018 will be very, very promising. At this point this year, I don't even care how the draft turns out, because I feel like the Eagles have to make a lot of decisions already on their roster as it is to see who stays and who goes. I mean, there was a lot of one-year contracts that Howie, aka Executive of the Year, Howie Roseman, signed in the past year. So now the big controversy after the Eagles win this big game is that who's going to stay? Alshon Jeffrey was the only one out of the most recent recruits that signed to stay more than a year. So what happens to Torrey Smith? What happens to, oh gosh, I'm just blanking, a guy from the Patriots, LeGarrette Blount? What happens to Chris Long? You know, there's a lot of names that could either stay or go, or you could give people like Darren Sproles a shot since he's already running around after his ACL, MCL injury. And Carson looks like he's on one cane. He's only on the cane now. So Carson may be practicing in August with the teams before even preseason. I mean, there's a lot of carousel roster signings and drops that will probably happen. And granted, I shouldn't even be thinking that far ahead, but it carries excitement into the following season, because whatever happens after today, it just shows you that the journey was worth it. All the ups and downs, all the trust, the processing that we've done, not only for the Eagles, but as well as for the Sixers. We had also a 3-for-3 weekend so far. I mean, Villanova won yesterday for college basketball. The Flyers won, and the Sixers won. They beat, who were they playing yesterday? They beat, the Bucks. They beat the Bucks last night. That's right. So, and Joel Embiid has been a certified all-star starter. So February is looking exciting to watch the all-star game, even though I really don't care for it as much as I started to not care for the Pro Bowl, but it still says a lot. It's a good look for him for the following season, since he spent most of his life on the sidelines as far as basketball or injured. So there's a lot of rocky renewal, rehabbing stories for all of our top 4 teams this year. But it's also meant that unless you're a fan, you won't know how rewarding this is until you stay around for the result. And so far, the Sixers are having a good run. I mean, yes, they've been up and down, but the Eagles have been the hot topic because the Eagles have actually been consistent. And that hasn't been since the 2004 year. So imagine 14 years later, here's this newer squad, all new guys, and a new coach who's a familiar face because he used to play on the Eagles back in the 90s. And even though it was brief, he obviously has retained a lot of QB knowledge. And no matter how I felt about him or any of us felt about him when Doug Peterson was hired, we weren't really impressed. But he's shown that he grew and he was willing to be uncomfortable in his coaching style when obviously the Andy Reidisms didn't work. And there are times that sometimes Doug does every now and then do a stupid play call. But you know, they're never going to play the game perfect. And let's just be honest, this whole week has always been about how the media has perceived our team and why we're embracing the underdog mentality. I mean, never mind that the coach has pretty much brought this team from a hole. You had a quarterback who pretty much did all the heavy lifting for most of the year up until his injury, and now a backup quarterback who's picking up the slack as much as he can. and still managing to almost be this close to the Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? Did anyone see a 13-3 year? Not me. I said 8-8. I didn't like Doug Peterson. I figured we'd give him one more year after this year, and then we'd be looking for another coach. Now, everyone's talking about Doug Peterson should have been coach of the year, but he wasn't. It's okay. I don't think he really cares about that part. I think at this point, he just wants to finish the year off right, and that's with the championship win. And even if they just win the conference today and don't win the Super Bowl, I'm fine, because I will state, like I have been stating on previous recordings, I didn't see the Eagles getting to this point. I didn't even see them getting to the playoffs, especially after a 7-9 year and then Carson going down. I thought they'd done as good as they can do, and that was a valiant effort. But now, majority of fans are greedy. They see the future. They see that we can do this. They see that no matter who steps up, the next man up mentality has worked as well. I mean, you've embraced underdogs. We've embraced the Rocky thing. We've embraced next man up. We've embraced, there's no I in team. There's been so many things that we as fans and the media alike, no matter how many times the media has been going against the Eagles, as they are again this weekend, the Eagles have had to have a huge chip on their shoulder, with every reason, because we know that years after their Super Bowl run, they have not even come close to sniffing a Super Bowl playoff spot at all. So I can understand the eagerness to want to go for the Vikings, especially because the Vikings look more intimidating, more big. But again, the Eagles can be smaller but faster, and they can get to the end zone probably quicker than the Vikings can. You got a quarterback that's never been in this position before. I mean, this is the tale of the backup quarterbacks for sure. No one thought Case Keenum and Nick Foles were going to be names you would ever hear on the brink of Super Bowl status. Who would have thought that? Backup QBs are just what they're supposed to be, backing up the main quarterback. But it's honestly the only one that's left that's a familiar name right now is Tom Brady. And Tom Brady had a major hand injury this week in practice. Not that that's going to stop him. I think Tom would play if he couldn't wear shoes. Tom just loves the game too much, and he's at home with being against adversity. It's not scary to him. I know that the media wanted to play it like, I don't know if Tom's going to start. Y'all have to realize how the Patriots have been operating. Whether they cheat or don't cheat, they still manage to stay focused and get to the goal. So whoever's willing to go up against Tom and that shaky defense on the Patriots got my respect, whether it be my squad or Jaguars or Vikings, whatever. But I don't see my Birds losing today. And I don't think it's even just because we have the stats going against us. I think just the Eagles are more focused now mentally. And I think when you're all in mentally, it's just a matter of time before everything trickles down physically and the team is running on adrenaline. And, hopefully no coughed up balls. Hopefully if Ajayi gets the ball more, he'll hold on to it. Corey can come in there and fill in the gaps where LeGarrette Blount can't. The three-headed monster is back, and I'm very happy about that, because now that Doug is not afraid to run the ball even in the second half, and he showed that a little in the Falcons game, I have very, very strong feeling that Doug will be able to pull through this game successfully, and the players will execute to the best of their ability, which is not exactly a bad thing anymore, because usually to the best of the ability usually means, I don't know, they'll do all right, they'll get by. But now I feel like they'll mean what they say now. And I feel like everything has matched up and lined up very well. And we don't care what analysts say. I mean, they get paid to guess what they think is going to happen. Stats don't mean anything to me. RPOs don't mean anything. I'm not embracing RPOs. I'm embracing NMUs, which is next man up mentality. And that's where my boys are at right now. Next man up. So whoever goes down today will be in the running to carry it to the Super Bowl. So I never thought I'd even mention the Super Bowl. I really honestly was still not attracted to it until I found out not only is Justin Timberlake doing halftime, which I kind of knew already. My girl Pink is doing the anthem, and then the guy Leslie Odom from Hamilton is going to do America the Beautiful. So this is going to be pretty much a well-oiled machine show. So I think we'll be entertained from before kickoff to at the end of the game. I mean, last year's game with the Falcons and the Patriots pretty much had us down to the wire. So if it ends up being a game like that and full of suspense toward the fourth quarter, I'm all in. I am all in for the Super Bowl. I don't care about the commercials this year. Who cares? They try too hard every year and they usually fail. So I'm more just for the halftime show. I'm more for, if my Birds are in it, for obviously a clean, effective win. And, maybe we can show all the veterans that the kids are all right and they know what they're doing. They can pick up where Donovan and them left off. And hopefully we'll get some Hall of Famers in there, towards the end of the season, like shout out Brian Dawkins, shout out Terrell Owens, and get them yellow jackets to end this perfectly magical 2017-2018 year. I've been so amped just at the thought of even talking about my birds still passed in January. I mean, here it is, my last day working at the link. And, this is our day where we start turning in our uniforms because it's our last full working day at home, because from this point on, they'll be in Minnesota. So I'm excited. I look back at a very unpredictable outcome as far as the Eagles were. I mean, being a fan was hard. Those ups and down years, those years that they were really, really bad, I still managed to have fun working at this job. And if you do want to be an event staffer, I highly recommend going on teamworkonline.com. I could be saying team sports. Either way, you can Google up event staff operators, because that's pretty much what I was doing. The first 5 years I worked at the pro shop, and I liked it too, but it really was limiting because I didn't get to move around a lot. But eventually I did, and then eventually I just went and reapplied for a whole new position. And the event staff has broadened to such a very multifaceted position where you can be an usher, you can be a supervisor, you can be a fan ambassador, you can be a 50-50 raffle ticket seller, you can do guest services. There's so many other things you can do as an event staffer. So next season will be good for those who are still working at the link, because they have 5 more concerts again. We're back to 2 Taylor Swifts, Kenny Chesney, Monster Jam. They're going to have, I'm sure, the lacrosse or what other exhibitionist finales like soccer and stuff in the late part of this summer. And then the Eagles will be back in motion. So it's a good thing to get through the year with, because they always keep you busy at the link. So I highly recommend, if you want to email Lincoln Financial Field, their email is, I'm sure, something you can easily Google. But I do highly recommend it. My 11 years have been rewarding. I did debate about coming back for a 12th season, but I feel like this year will end on such a great note that it's almost like Michael Jordan. You just want to leave it the first time he retired. I'd rather leave it on such a great note that I wouldn't want to go back and wear out my welcome. Plus, I feel like because the Eagles play in London in October, I really feel like this is so much worth it to spend most of my summer trying to get my savings to really build up so that I have enough spending money to go crazy in England. And then I can also have maybe a day or two left by the end of the year to maybe, I don't know, go to another Eagles away game. So that's kind of my goals for the rest of 2018. I do feel like this year is already looking like it's going to be a very exciting, rewarding, emotional, maybe stressful at times, but ultimately fulfilling year. And I kind of felt that even before the clock struck midnight on New Year's Eve. I kind of felt like 2018 just had a lot more promising things to offer. And now it's already topping off with a very exciting postseason football year. And like I said, basketball is starting to get more exciting now, and college football is starting to fire up. So you never know where any of our local teams can end up in the Fab Five, or should I say March Madness. Usually that's the kickoff to spring. So when March Madness comes, the only reason I care is because I know it's going to start getting warmer. So I've never been much to follow with the football things. The college basketball things, but I do like college football a lot more now. Not so just because my sister went to FSU, but it seems like it just holds a lot more excitement throughout the season as opposed to just spots here and there. That's all I really wanted to say. I'm just amped for this game. Kickoff is 6:40. We have to be there at like 1:45. So I'll be getting on one of the 2 trains in the 12 o'clock hour. I'll be hoofing it to the train or bus, whatever, depending on if my mom's dropping me off. But I sound like a grown woman, mother dropping me off, whatever. Hopefully that'll change too in 2018. By the end of the year, I can actually put a down payment on another apartment because I really miss having my own space. But I had to go through a lot of things. And I know growth is something I keep hearing a lot since this new year started, just whether I've watched reports or just people talking about in articles how they've personally grown a lot more. And I feel like I have too, spiritually as well as mentally. And so I'm just trying to learn to fine tune my patience bone so that I learn that saving is an option, not something that it really doesn't have an option when you're saving money. You just have to save money. It just makes sense. But I think at the end of this broadcast, what I'm going to realize is that my Eagles have the possibility of going to the Super Bowl. And I figure as long as they play competitive today and they look like they want to be there and they want to win, I'm all in, and all the hype videos in the world that I've watched this past week, whether it be Brian Dawkins hyping everybody up walking through the Link tunnel, or just watching just clips that people put together on YouTube just to get you all ramped up. It has been a very rewarding postseason, and I hope it continues. And for all those who are Eagle fans and who've been on TV this week, like Mike and all those guys from Fourth and John and everybody who's took the time to hang around South Philly all week when they've been broadcasting, cheers to you, because that is dedication. I wish I could move around as much as they do because it does look fun. But I'm sure after the game tonight, I might be hanging around in town anyway, because one might be a little scary to get home. Folks may be jumping in the highways, or maybe we'll end up at Chicky and Pete's just to kill time. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Win or lose, I know I'm going to be amped, and I'm probably not going to be able to sleep well. So I already told my supervisor tomorrow, expect me to be later in the morning. I'm not going to be coming in at 9. So all that to say, this is going to be a very exciting day. I wish the most from my birds, as always. Fly, Eagles, fly. Bird gang for life. Thank you for listening. It's a very short podcast, but I'm sure once this game is over, I'll come back with another edition, the post-game podcast, and then hopefully we'll be talking about the Super Bowl. So without further ado, I will say good night. Shout out to me if you want to comment. AJRadioCaller@AOL.com. GirlyVirgo78. It's my Birds of a Feather Twitter page. Shout me out on Instagram, AJRadioCaller. And any other things, just come and see me at Torque Club and buy a raffle ticket. Other than that, EAGLES Eagles. Let's win this, boys. Take care. Talk to y'all on the next podcast.